I've never compared these two crossovers before because in our location, the Tiguan, or Volkswagen in general, usually isn't as available. However, with this refresh on this new body style, there's a couple of things that we can't deny. Number one, passenger room. Number two, styling. And number three, perhaps performance with a turbo engine. In comparing these two, the question I've posed to myself, is the Volkswagen actually better than the Mazda? Hey, I'm Jonathan Sewell Sales at Mitchell Mazda on the Boulevard in Enterprise, Alabama. And you see behind me, I've got two compact crossovers for a nice comparison of a refreshed 22 Volkswagen Tiguan and a refreshed 22 Mazda CX-5. So let's jump in. More car vids. More car vids. Starting up front, again, these are both refreshed for 22. So they've got updated front, rear, and side in the case of the Tiguan. The biggest differences, of course, other than German automotive and Japanese automotive, both are import class, of course. However, you'll notice that there is a significant size or length difference because there's something special back there in the Tiguan that we don't have in the CX-5. But we're going to get started up front on both of these compact crossovers. So you can see right up front on this Volkswagen, big VW Heritage Classic logo there. Also, the headlights have been redesigned for 22. So you have these nice LED strips going around, including your daytime running lights and then your blinkers underneath. And we'll turn those on in just a minute. Have nice gloss black all the way around, almost giving you the perception of a wind management, but those are solid. But still, this use of white and gloss black really pops. And this is an R-Line SE, so it's the standard R-Line. And we'll continue around the side in just a minute, but let's step over to the CX-5. We're familiar with this, of course, with the big signature wing, big Mazda logo up front. Also redesigned headlights with a more, these L shapes here on this upgraded headlight here on this premium model. Of course, they've gone more longer, extended bumpers and body color with less cladding or plastic, as you can see the design there difference on the Volkswagen. Jumping under the engines, we see a little bit of a different setup here. You have a big airbox funneling into a turbo. So this is a 2.0 liter turbo, and pretty cool design on the engine cover here. Of course, clear fluids, as you can see. They have their reservoir there round, and of course coming from this radiator, everything else, windshield washer. You see the brake fluid back there, the battery, and then your relays right in here. So big air management, big air box right there, and feeding to a turbo. So this 2-liter turbo gets 184 horsepower, 221 foot-pounds of torque. So you'd expect a little bit more torque from that fuel economy. And the big surprise underneath is this is mated on the way out there down the drivetrain to a 8-speed automatic transmission, of course, with sequential shift. So front-wheel drive, 2-liter with an 8-speed transmission. Fuel economy is very comparable in both. This one's rated at 23 city, 30 highway, or 26 combined. Now, to remind you of the CX-5, this is a 2.5 liter. Of course, they're Sky Active G. Still have good air management, but feeding right in, naturally aspirated. You can upgrade in other models, the turbo models, to a 2.5 turbo, but this 2.5 liter standard engine is 187 horsepower, so better than the turbocharged on the Volkswagen, and only 186 foot-pounds of torque. So the turbo wins out with more torque. This is mated down the driveline to a 6-speed automatic, which is what the CX-5 has had for several years, or actually since inception. And all CX-5s in North America are all-wheel drive. So you do have the extra traction of the front and the rear wheels if necessary, or whatever the conditions demand. This fuel economy is 24 city, 30 highway, or 26 combined as well. So very similar in fuel economy, and horsepower goes this way, torque goes this way. Well, let's compare the sides, starting with the Volkswagen. So the R-Line SE has a 19-inch wheel, and you can see this one's gloss black, several spokes there. And the nicer wheel really comes on the 20-inch wheel in the SEL R-Line. But as we continue across, you have a nice reflector there. Good styling here with the badging, with the R there. So again, tying in some of that gloss black. You have gloss black mirrors with a nice little LED strip here. This does have blind spot monitoring, and it may be hard to see, but you actually have a pretty substantial LED light right here that lights up inside to show you when something's in your blind spot. Of course, love this body design here. It's not quite a Soul of Motion smooth, but you would expect on a German vehicle to have these harsh body lines, which are actually carried over from the front into this indentation here. So it's pretty slick for what it is. And of course, this Tiguan now is very reminiscent of some of the other vehicles in their line. You do have an advanced intelligent key here, or smart open. Nice little Volkswagen hidden right there in the A pillar or B pillar. Ties in with that little black for the R line, and then just a standard roof rail. You'll see a difference here. You actually have a little bit of a gap to get some straps or things underneath, and then a little gloss black shark fin. Nice little spoiler to finish it off, and then more of a traditional liftgate coming around with a new design taillight that we'll look at in just a minute. Moving over here to the CX-5. This Premium has a new design 19-inch wheel, which is gloss black and machined, so pretty nice looking. Of course, it just depends on your preference. I still like the gloss black on the Carbon Edition. And again, this Soul of Motion has kind of one body line, but everything else you can see is just masterful work, Takumi work here on the sheet metal to give that appearance of movement. Not a lot of harsh lines, but the light just reflects off of it and bends in many ways. This Premium does have color keyed mirror caps. Of course, a LED strip here, more traditional blind spot monitor right up here in the corner. And we do have the old Mazda style push here, which is similar to the Volkswagen. Both have the black, matte black cladding around. Kind of hard to see with all the gloss black there, but you can upgrade to a body color, which in the Tiguan you cannot in that SEL R line. Then of course ties into just a smaller spoiler, larger shark fin antenna, and then more of a round back end here. So let's go to the back. The Tiguan, of course, as I mentioned, was redesigned, has new tail lights, all LED back here. So a nice little design mirroring the front there. Of course, big Volkswagen logo, and kind of upscaled it here with the Tiguan emblem right there in the center. Of course, you can see that this is the SE model, and of course it would list the SEL there as well. One thing I didn't point out up front is that this one is standard with parking sensors, so you have that on the front and the rear, which is a good addition considering you have to go to the very top trim on the CX-5 to have that. Then again, you can kind of continue this design of these harsh body lines in the back, and really, you know, ties in the whole vehicle together. Even the lights are kind of that harsh, those harsh cuts there. Then you have a nice little reflector around here on the bottom and a gloss black trim. Now, if you'll notice, this is designed for an outlet of the exhaust, but it's all plastic. Your exhaust is actually underneath and it's not through there. So it's kind of a faux design. And even on the SEL model, it's actually trimmed in chrome. So it really brings attention to it, but still no actual outlet of the exhaust. Also on the R line, standard with a rear backup camera and a rear power liftgate. And here's the surprise I was talking about earlier before we jump inside too much. You do have a third row seat, so a 50-50 split. This one also had a few accessories such as this cargo protection system and the cargo cover. But you can see LED lights, as we'll talk about more inside, but do have third row seats standard on the Tiguan. So all Tiguans are 7 passenger, something that we don't see on the CX-5. So when you fold this seat down, you do have pretty full cargo area, and very convenient if you want a smaller vehicle but are going to be hauling more passengers. Specifically, children of various ages can fit back here very comfortably and still have a power liftgate. Moving over to the CX-5, of course, we can actually see the rear outlets here on the exhaust tips, little chrome tip there standing out. And this is redesigned as well, so less trim design, actually smaller reflectors than in years past, which actually is nice because the bigger ones sometimes would get clipped and crunched and a little hard to replace there. Mirrors the front headlight designs with these L shapes here, and again, not as flat as a glass as the Volkswagen, so a little bit more angled. And of course, both have rear wipers and third brake lights. However, we know no power liftgate on the CX-5 Premium now, and you can see a difference here from just these regular struts instead of the actuators that we were accustomed to for many years. Do have a 40-20-40 split. Of course, quick release handles here, spare tire underneath, accessible from under here, whereas because of the third row, the Tiguans would be located underneath. So a little bit more convenient depending if you want to drop it down with an actuator or lift it out. But other than that, cargo space goes to the Tiguan and more passengers goes to the Tiguan. However, this size, maybe you're not expecting a third row nor needing a third row. So maybe the CX-5 wins if you don't have 7 passengers. Oh, and power liftgate goes to the Tiguan as well. All right, let's go inside here. So the first thing you notice that this R-Line does have a lighted door sill. Also, you can tell by the hue here, these are all LED lights inside, so it makes it really nice, really convenient. As we look at the door cards here, very upgraded soft touch materials with this nice design stitching. And of course, you can see there's actually even a little LED inside of this trim piece, which is kind of like a metallic design look somewhat. And just all these little accents just really scale this up. And this is just the R-Line editions. Of course, lights up with the big Volkswagen logo and soft touch materials all the way across. You can see that whole door card there with the LED lights. And this is something pretty neat. They actually have a felt line container, so if you have a stainless steel cup like a Yeti, it's not going to get banged around or scratched. It's all felt in there except for this. So I don't know if you protect it on 2 sides. I don't know why you went in this harsh plastic here, may scratch it, but good thought. And of course, it absorbs any moisture from what you might lose there. So let's go ahead and fire this up. Push button start. Fires up pretty nice. Big digital LCD right there. A lot of neat controls on the steering wheel. So you have your volume right here, and this is actually a slide feature and very responsive, like a haptic every time you touch it there. And I don't own the rights to that music, so I'll turn it back down. But everything's haptic on here and touching, very similar to, well, it really reminds me of the first touchscreen BlackBerry, if you remember that, how it had those haptic touches. And infotainment's pretty neat. Of course, you can see that it's got satellite radio, but did you notice that when I put my hands up, it senses that and actually shows me the menu? So that's pretty cool. Small knobs here to turn around, and you do have several settings. Something I thought was pretty neat here when we go into assist systems, instead of a menu, it's a graphic choice. So I can choose this vehicle right here, pulls up the adaptive cruise control. I can choose this right here, pulls out the side assist or the blind spot options there. So that's pretty cool. And then of course go back to the radio and pulls up this information here, and you can toggle back and forth. No navigation on this, but do have several apps, including Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and they have USB-C chargers right here. Carried over with the touch sensitive right here. I can just scale that back and it just senses that touch. Also the same with the speed. You can see that adjustment there with the fan speed, which is pretty neat. Heated seats are standard, and these are a leatherette style seat, not very soft as far as the material, but pretty durable, and themselves are pretty firm feeling. So even though they look kind of pliable here, when you're sitting in it, it's pretty firm. So kind of sporty, I guess, but not as comfortable as what we'll see in the CX-5. Also, just to take a quick peek back there, I know it's a little bit dark, but you do have a fold down armrest. That is a 60-40 split, I believe. And so do have similar styling back there. And of course, LED lights for map lights there as well. This one does not have a moonroof, so the SE is not standard with that. And not sure if you can add that. I'm sure you can, but very stylish steering wheel with the R logo right here. And again, this 8-speed transmission does have a sequential shift option, so you can toggle it through all 8 gears. And I will say, from driving it earlier, it was not, you know, some of those 8 speeds kind of have a hard time figuring out that first-second exchange, and it was kind of like which gear does it need to be in. But once you got going, that turbo torque really took off, and you did have a quick acceleration. But overall, the ride comfort, because of the seats, was a little bit lacking to me. I do have the seat all the way back, so you can see, you know, this is barely able to touch the pedals. Speaking of the pedals, they have a nice dead pedal here design, and very sporty looking. Of course, you know, almost too far back for me. I just want to do a quick comparison of the back seat room. So with that seat all the way back, you can see that I can slide my legs in here and still have pretty good room right here, just barely touching the back of the seat. Also have rear vents right here, and just to pull this down, do have just regular cup holders. So you've got one charger, one USB charger right there, and it's USB-C, and then a traditional AC connection. So let's go to the CX-5. So we're pretty familiar with this. So this is the black interior. You do have the extra stitching there, so it breaks up the color a little bit, and a little bit hard to see this door card, but on the Premium you do have kind of a faux wood with a little accent. Do have soft touch materials, not any extra stitching except for in this armrest and up top here around, and that carries over through the dash. Soft touch materials. No LED lighting until you go up to the Signature model, but it's pretty bright in here with those bigger halogen bulbs. Leather wrap steering wheel, more traditional toggle or rocker switches here for those controls, and Mazda logo right here. Let's crank it up. Cranks up to the CX-5, still have some analog gauges here, and do have an 8.8-inch widescreen. The Volkswagen was 8 inches, but it was touchscreen, whereas this one, of course, uses the commander control knob. And you have more hotkeys or favorites here. Both had electronic park and brakes. This does have an extra drive mode with the Sport, which the Volkswagen did not, that I could tell. Both had auto climate control and, of course, push button start. So it really comes down to preference. You can toggle through some of the safety features here and also choose some safety features here. I would say that the infotainment probably sways towards the Volkswagen as far as just wow, some of the upgrades and technology and things like that. But do think that overall ride quality is better in the CX-5 because the seats are more comfortable, and that 6-speed is really on point when you're accelerating instead of getting started with that first and second kind of hesitation, even though this one is not turbocharged, so it doesn't have the same torque values. If we were in the turbo, I think it would be hands down, no question, of the CX-5, which I'm pretty close to that anyway. But everything carries over to the back. We'll hop back there in just a second because likewise, I have the seat all the way back. So really about the same leg room, hard to see because it's not lit up as well from the position of this car. But you can see that about stretching the same to keep my foot on the brake there and have plenty of room, of course. But just do a quick comparison. Let's hop back here. And kind of hard to see that, but looks to be a little bit less than on the Tiguan, and I would say that is true. So a little bit more cramped here on that seat. Of course, I could open up wider, but be rubbing up against the door over here, and so don't have as much rear leg room with that seat all the way back. Of course, I wouldn't ride with that seat all the way back in either vehicle. Rear AC vents, and of course, we're familiar with Mazda, so you have cup holders, device holder, and 2 USB chargers, but no USB-C. So that's why I would say the tech kind of leans towards the Volkswagen, and we know that Mazda hasn't been as up to date with tech. We also have a moonroof here, of course, on the Premium, and neither one has upgraded sound. So the Volkswagen would upgrade to a Fender, and of course you upgrade on the next model up to a Bose on the Mazda. So Volkswagen wins on the interior for infotainment and tech. However, Mazda on comfort, seat comfort, and driving dynamics and driving experience. Okay, here's a last look, and these are running, so I'll try to talk a little bit louder, but I wanted you to see how the lights look at night. So here's the LEDs. If we can get up close here, you have both of them kind of a reflector style LED, and of course that little faint LED there in that design, and then here's your strip right here in the middle. Of course, neither one of these have fog lights, as that seems to be a fading away. These little side lights here are nice. LED turn signals right here. And here's a look at those. Of course, you have a LED light in your reverse lights, but that little design there, ties in well. Looks really good. And LED tag lights. Moving up front here to the CX-5. We have a LED projector beam, which some would say would be more directional. And of course, these are adaptive, which would help cover more of the road, which obviously in a reflector design, you can't do that. So these would probably win for headlights. Also, this nice little L design here and a little blinker right in there really upscales it. Your side marker is built into the headlight unit here. Little cleaner LED strip really compared to that one on the Volkswagen. And then everything kind of matches the same with this nice little glow, and your reverse light would be right in there, and a little LED bulb. LED tag lights as well. So I think that the exterior lighting goes to the CX-5 just for functionality with these adaptive, and it looks really nice on this. The big thing that I would say is that when you go up to the SEL R line, they actually have the daytime runners coming to the grill. So a little bit different design, maybe a different update on the headlight itself, but these are the same headlights you see all the way up here. So this is that upgraded headlight. So not much changes moving up model on the CX-5. So thanks for joining me for this comparison, compact crossover comparison of the 22 Mazda CX-5 Premium and the 22 Volkswagen R-Line SE. Which do you choose? I kind of gave you my take on it. Of course, overall, I'm leaning towards the CX-5 because I want ride comfort and better driving dynamics. However, if I needed something, these are comparably priced, somewhere around $32,000 to $33,000. So if I needed something in that price point with 7 passengers, the Tiguan's worth checking out, I guess. So of course, very German, very Japanese for that design tradition. And of course, didn't go into crash ratings and things like that. This one's a turbo front wheel drive, all-wheel drive available. This one's only all-wheel drive and non-turbo or naturally aspirated, same fuel economy. So which would you choose? I think most of you are going to go over here, but we might have some Volkswagen lovers out there. You never know. Thanks for joining me. If you have any additional questions or comments, just drop them down below or text me at 334-718-0504. I am Jonathan Sewell Sales at Mitchell Mazda, and I really can't wait to see you. I choose that one. A beautiful Mazda.